Imagine you are a seasoned hiker. You have done this before: the cold, the altitude, the long nights in a tent. You know exactly what it means to be out there in the middle of winter with a mountain above you and nothing but snow for miles. Now imagine something happens in the night, something so sudden, so terrifying that you grab a knife and you cut your way out of the tent from the inside, not through the door, through the fabric, and then you run out into darkness in temperatures of minus 30 degrees Celsius. No coat, no boots, no plan. What on earth could make 9 experienced, trained hikers do that? That is the question that has haunted investigators, scientists, and curious people around the world for over 60 years. And the answer, even the most rational, scientific one we have today, is still deeply unsettling. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. To understand what makes this case so haunting, you first need to understand who these people were. Because these were not beginners. They were not thrill seekers who had no idea what they were getting into. It is January 1959. The Soviet Union is in the middle of the Cold War. Life is hard, controlled, and closely watched. But there is one kind of freedom that young people can still access: the wilderness. Hiking clubs at universities are popular, and the students of the Ural Polytechnic Institute in Sverdlovsk are serious about it. Their leader is Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, a fifth-year engineering student. He is known around campus for organizing difficult expeditions. His peers trust him completely. Around him is a close group of friends, mostly engineering and physics students. One woman named Zinaida Kolmogorova, who is described by everyone who knew her as fearless, and a war veteran named Semyon Zolotaryov, the oldest of the group at 37, who joined the expedition only weeks before. Nobody had done a trip with him before. That detail will matter later. Their plan is ambitious but not unreasonable. They want to ski to Mount Otterton, about 300 kilometers north of Sverdlovsk in the northern Ural Mountains. The route would earn each of them a Grade 3 hiking certification, the highest level in the Soviet system. They are experienced enough to attempt it. They have done hard trips before. There are 10 of them when they set off by train on January 25th. One member, Yuri Yudin, has to turn back after a few days because of a bad knee. He hugs his friends goodbye. He will later say it is the moment that saved his life. He is also the last person to see all 9 of them alive. 9 hikers continue into the mountains. They are in good spirits. They take photographs along the way, laughing in the snow, posing for the camera, cooking around a fire. The pictures look like any group of young friends on an adventure. By the evening of February 1st, 1959, the group is making good progress. They are moving across the eastern slope of a mountain called Kholat Shachel. In the language of the local Mansi people, that name roughly translates to Dead Mountain. They are supposed to camp lower in a more sheltered spot, but the weather turns. Visibility drops. Instead of pushing back down the slope to find a safer location, Dyatlov makes a decision. They will camp here, on the open slope, and push on tomorrow. It is not a reckless decision. Experienced hikers make calls like this all the time. They dig in, pitch the tent, and settle down for the night. The temperature is estimated to have been between minus 25 and minus 30 degrees Celsius that night, with strong winds. Inside the tent, they would have been cold but sheltered. They take off their outer boots and coats to sleep, as hikers do. You keep them off to preserve body heat inside your sleeping bag. It is standard practice. Then something happens. We do not know exactly what. No one survived to tell us, but we know what the aftermath looked like, and it tells a story of sudden, absolute terror. The hikers were supposed to send a telegram when they reached their destination. When no telegram arrived by February 12th, the scheduled date, no one panicked right away. Delays happen, bad weather, slow progress. But by late February, family members are growing anxious, and the Institute sends a search party. On February 26th, the search team finds the tent on the slope of Dead Mountain. It is partially buried in snow, and what they see stops them cold. The tent has been cut open from the inside. Several large slits, clearly made with a knife, from the inside of the fabric. Every single piece of gear is still inside. Food, warm clothes, boots, cameras, the hikers' journals, everything they needed to survive, left behind. The rescuers follow a trail of footprints leading away from the tent, down the slope toward a nearby forest. The tracks are from bare feet and socked feet. Almost no one had their boots on. In some places, the footprints show people stumbling. In others, they seem to walk in a slow, almost calm line, as if they were not running from something, but walking away from it, deliberately. About 1.5 kilometers from the tent, at the edge of the tree line, they find the first two bodies. Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko are lying near the remains of a small fire. They are in their underwear. Both have died of hypothermia. But Krivonishenko's hands are burned. He had been holding branches in the fire with his bare hands. That is not the action of a rational person. That is the action of someone so dangerously cold that they could no longer feel pain. Moving back up the slope, between the fire and the tent, they find three more bodies: Igor Dyatlov himself, Zenaida Kolmogorova, and a man named Rustem Slobodin. All three died of hypothermia. Their body positions suggest they were trying to crawl back toward the tent. Dyatlov is found clutching a tree branch. Kolmogorova's hands are bleeding. She had been crawling through the snow with such desperate force that her fingers were torn. They died trying to go back. But the search team cannot find the other four. For weeks, they comb the mountainside. Nothing. It is not until May 4th, over 2 months later, when the snow begins to melt, that a search dog picks up a scent near a ravine about 75 meters deeper into the forest. Rescuers start digging. Under 4 meters of snow, they find the last four. The four in the ravine are Lyudmila Dubinina, Semyon Zolotaryov, Alexander Kolovatov, and Nikolai Thibault-Brignol. They are better dressed than the others. Some of them are wearing clothing that appears to have been taken from the first two bodies found at the tree line. This tells investigators something important. These four survived the initial night long enough to try to care for each other. They made decisions. They planned. But the condition of their bodies is what truly shook the investigators. Thibault-Brignol has a severe skull fracture. Dubinina and Zolotaryov both have multiple broken ribs. Not one or two, but several on both sides. The force required to cause those injuries, according to the medical examiner, is comparable to being hit by a car or being crushed by something extraordinarily heavy. And yet, not a single one of them has external injuries to match. No bruising on the skin, no cuts, no torn clothing that suggests a violent struggle. Their skin is largely intact. The damage is entirely internal, as if whatever hit them passed straight through without leaving a mark on the surface. The medical examiner on the case later said he had never seen anything like it in his career. And then there is Lyudmila Dubinina. This detail is perhaps the most disturbing of all. Her tongue, along with soft tissue from her mouth and part of her eyes, are missing. Gone completely. The official explanation was that they had been removed by decomposition, by water, by small animals in the snow. That is scientifically plausible, but it added a layer of horror to an already horrifying scene that no one could easily shake. Soviet investigators examine everything. They interview the local Mansi people. They find low levels of radiation on some of the clothing, particularly on Zolotaryov's sweater and Krivonishenko's pants. The official conclusion from the investigation is 9 words long. Died as a result of an unknown compelling force. The case is closed. The files are classified. The pass through which they hiked is renamed. It is now officially called Dyatlov Pass. For 6 decades, the theories never stopped. Some were fueled by the Cold War secrecy surrounding the case. Some were fueled by the sheer strangeness of the details. And some, you have to admit, are hard to completely dismiss until you have a better answer. In 2019, a team of researchers at a Swiss university used computer simulations and snow science to model what could have happened on that slope. Their conclusion, later supported by a separate Russian government investigation in 2021, pointed to a slab avalanche. Not the kind of avalanche you picture in the movies, with a wall of white rolling down a mountain. A slab avalanche is different. It is a dense, compressed layer of snow, packed hard like concrete, that breaks loose and moves as one solid unit. It hits fast and it hits hard. It can crush bones without leaving a surface bruise. the same way a sudden hydraulic compression injures internal organs without tearing skin. A slab hitting a sleeping person through a tent would produce exactly the kind of internal injuries seen in the ravine. The theory goes like this. A small slab broke loose above the tent while the group was asleep or settling down. It may not have been large, it did not bury them, but it hit with enough force to injure some of them and collapse part of the tent. Disoriented, in the dark, in intense cold, and fearing a larger avalanche was coming, someone grabbed a knife and cut the tent open. They ran. Once outside in minus 30 degrees with no boots and no coats, hypothermia would set in within minutes. In the dark and the blizzard, they could not find their way back. They ran toward the only thing they could see, the tree line below. They tried to make a fire. They tried to survive. 4 of them made it to the ravine, found a small natural shelter, and lasted a little longer. A secondary snow collapse, a cornice or loose drift above the ravine, likely came down on them. That explains the injuries and explains why they were buried so deep. It is a rational answer, it is a scientific answer, and for most researchers today, it is the accepted answer. But the radiation on the clothing has never been fully explained. And one file, the original Soviet case file, remained classified until 2019, when it was partially released. 9 people went up a mountain. Science has given us its best explanation for how they died. But here's the thing about Dead Mountain. It has kept its secrets for 65 years. The Soviet government sealed this case for decades. Some of those files are still not fully open. We know what happened to their bodies. We still don't know exactly what they saw.